What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets, Action Network's daily NBA betting podcast. We're in the workshop. Thursday playoff slate. Man, we only got one game. We only got one series left to cap until the finals. Game 5, Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, back in the great state of Minnesota. They extended the series. The Minnesota Timberwolves got it done, led by Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. You know the deal. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app. NHL is in the conference finals as well. Baseball, everything is rolling. We got a ton of stuff coming up here for the finals. As long as these series go, we'll have content for you. Stay locked. Go download the Action Network app and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. All right, I got two of the sharps with me. J Money is Money and AOW Andrew O'Connor Watts. We're going to give our best bets for Game 5. Timberwolves, Mavericks. J Money is Money. What we playing in Game 5?
Yeah, we're going to the streets of Minnesota in this one, but I'm taking Kyrie under his 23.5 points. We'll break it down in a sec.
Prop J back in the building. AOW, give me your best bet for Game 5, Western Conference Finals.
I got Wolves -2.5 in the first half.
I'm taking the Minnesota Timberwolves -4.5 full game. We're going to break it all down. Let's go. Jay, I'm going to come to you. Let's talk about the prop because we could talk about the overall scope of the game. That'll just lead me and AOW into the full game. Prop Jay is back. I ain't seen Side Jay in a minute.
Yeah,
my man Jay been knocking down the props. He been finding the angles he likes.
You gotta notice the patterns. You gotta notice the patterns, man. When the sides don't get to hitting, or obviously, I always tell people, like the closer you get to the finals, things get harder and harder. Obviously, but like specifically with a series, and then you see teams making defensive adjustments and things like that. You see how they're playing, going up against each other. It's all about matchups. Like in the playoffs, that's when it's really really best to look at props for me personally. But yeah, I'm going with Kyrie under 23.5. I like what the Wolves did in Game 4. They finally all right, let me get Ant up off him, man, because he has a personal vendetta. You want to come out and talk? All right, man, which Ant is a little bit too, I'm not going to say he's too small, but I do think it works out a little bit better for Ant to be guarding Luka, because we know Luka's not the fastest lateral movement type of player. Can he get past you? He can, but he's not the fastest guy. Kyrie has a lot more quickness than Luka does, so it works out better for Ant to go up against Luka, especially the fact that Ant has to put a lot more towards the offensive end as well, right? You can't have him, you can't be chasing around guys like Steph Curry, things like that. You know what I'm saying? Klay Thompson coming off screens, or guys that are really quick all game. You're going to be gassed. So there was a really great adjustment there for the Wolves. Let's put Ant on Luka. Let's put Jaden McDaniels on Kyrie, because we just need him to give all offense. Jaden McDaniels is one of the best defensive wings in the NBA, and they don't really need him for offense like that. Like, he's like a 3-and-D type of guy. All right, spot up on the three-point line. Let's see if you can make some threes. Give your whole game to guarding Kyrie and slowing him down. That's exactly what he did in Game 4 there. I love that. People say Kyrie had a bad game. I mean, you could kind of say he had a bad game. On the other side, you could say Jay McDaniels did a really good job defensively on him. He held Kyrie to 6 of 18. I was even surprised that he got to 16 points, to be honest with you. Now you're going on the road as well. I feel like Jay McDaniels is going to be on him matched up once again. He has a ton of more size and length to bother Kyrie, and I think that's going to be their script to slowing down the Mavs. So I'll take a shot with Kyrie under his 23.5 points.
Yeah, I like the spot, because that was a massive adjustment for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was almost like, why haven't we done this earlier? Why are we waiting until Game 4 to make this switch happen? What are we looking at here, right? Who knows what happened behind the scenes and what went into making that decision? Because, of course, if you're touted as one of the best on-ball defenders and one of the best offensive players in the world, and Luka Doncic is the guy that's across from you, that's a guy you want to check. Look, man, sometimes it's about matchups. In my history of media, you can go back, it's all recorded on wax. I feel like I was one of the first guys to come out really and start talking about Luka's weight and him being out of shape. And there was so much data you could go look at and refer to about how impactful he was in the first half and the first quarter. And as the game went on, offensively, he just fell off a cliff, and it was flat out because he was out of shape and tired. Now, when you could use, and so overall, part of where my conclusion landed was, I think part of this is he doesn't want to give up that size and that ability to just move people around. He likes being able to throw his body around and move. That's, I think, a part of why we haven't seen him get in super ripped up shape for Luka. But overall, that matchup against Jaden McDaniels was tough because he was just moving him around. He's thin, long but thin, and that was something that Luka can kind of work around. And yeah, Kyrie struggled. Both switches with what Jay just laid out with Ant-Man going to Luka, it bothered him. They were combined 13 to 39 from the floor. That's never going to get it done, especially. And if you take off what Luka did in the first quarter, which is when he did most of his damage, throughout the rest of that game, it was pretty bleak. Let me pull up these second half shooting numbers right here for Luka. He only took 8 shots in the second half. So when we're talking about Luka in a closeout being at the house, he even got on the stand in the post-game presser and was like, I didn't bring enough energy. It was on me. I'll take the loss. And actually multiple Mavericks said that. Gafford said it. We just didn't bring enough energy. We didn't have it. And I think a big part of that is just those defensive adjustments. ALW, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, those defensive adjustments are a big reason why why I like the Wolves in the first half here. Putting, you mentioned Ant on Luka, also Kyle Anderson on Luka. He's done pretty well in that spot. But obviously for this cap in particular, Jaden on Kyrie being huge. You mentioned Kyrie had a bad game, but it was McDaniels locking him down. They used to say that a lot with Shane Battier when he would guard Kobe, right? Like Battier would literally study where Kobe's bad spots on the floor were, force him to those spots, and everyone would be like, man, Kobe's just off tonight. It's like, no, it's all the matchup, right? So, I mean, he was 6 for 18. You could feel it. I don't know if part of him not playing well was maybe it wasn't the Super Bowl. Maybe that's why he didn't play so well, but I don't know if you guys heard that.
No, enlighten the people.
So I'll tell you guys. So, before the game, I think it was in shoot around, Kyrie said that for the Wolves, this is their Super Bowl, but for us, it's just a regular game. And, that's pretty much just in a lab bulletin board material, if I've ever seen it. And I think a big part of the reason he didn't play well, like we said, is McDaniels, but it's just kind of fitting that he had this terrible game right after all that trash talking beforehand. But yeah, no, I think it's a great look, man. Honestly, I might tail you on that because with Jaden mostly on him, he was just absolutely getting put in jail with trying to guard Luka every single possession, just on his hip immediately. And then, but on those faster, slower guys, I think it's a mutual thing for both. So Jaden's better on these smaller guys that he can use his length against, and he's worse against these big guys that can overpower him. Whereas Ant is better on these bigger guys where he can use some of his size. He doesn't get tired out chasing guys around screens and that kind of thing. I think it's a perfect switch. I'm sure Jason Kidd will adjust, but I love the Kyrie underlook because I do think that McDaniels is a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, and if we go back to that Thunder series, remember, he went the entire series, Kyrie Irving, without scoring 23 points. He was not scoring in that series. They were strapping up Kyrie Irving in that series, and they were able to eke out a couple really close games. If we actually look back game to game for the Dallas Mavericks, they've been eking out a lot of tight ball games, and it didn't go their way in game 4. That's why we're going back to Minnesota. This is a really good look. I agree. I think, if anything, this is a perfect matchup for Jaden McDaniels. Yeah. He's a dude that essentially weighs right around what he weighs. He's a littler dude that can finish at the cup. But if you are focused on slowing him up at the perimeter, Jaden McDaniels is going to be a really, really difficult dude to score on. I really like the look, Jay. I agree with you on the under 23.5. All right, LW.
You like when Prop J comes out. You like,
you know
what? I like the way I'll break it down. You be like, you know what? I like this.
No, I do. And you were dead on about Siakam. Prop J was locked in on Siakam. Yeah, hey man, I respect how you see the game of hoops. Probably the only thing I've ever not respected what you said is that you could strap up Luka Doncic.
Come on,
But
man.
I don't want to
I
derail
said I'd make it.
the pod.
I'd make it hard for him. I'm not like nobody's gonna shut down Luka, but yeah, especially like in a one-on-one game where he can't cry to the refs. That's all I'll say. Like this isn't. Yeah, street basketball is a whole lot different than when you guys. So like, you want to call a foul? Okay, cool. Check the ball back up. No, you're not going to the free throw line, Luka. Now, how about that? So that's the last thing I'll say.
You be slapping the floor, Jay?
Do I say no? I don't do all that. I'm not trying to break my finger or some shit trying to slap the floor. No, it's gonna be tough to score me. That's all I'll say.
I got you. Prop J has been on point. The Siakam breakdown was spectacular, and I agree that defensive switch up against Kyrie with Jaden McDaniels is a really good matchup for Jaden McDaniels, and I mean it's a confidence thing too. He just personally has to feel a lot better not seeing Luka's back and being put in jail, like ALW said, every single possession. Luka's just a handful to deal with offensively. So I think he has to be feeling pretty good about that switch over to Kyrie. I just wish it would have happened earlier on in the series. We'll see how it continues to shake out. All right, ALW, let's talk about the first couple of frames in the first half. Why you going there and placing the units on the first half of the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Yeah, so, I mean, I just lean to the Wolves in general in this spot. I think they have to come out, and in particular, I think they have to come out strong. They have to come out sharp. The reason I like the first half over like a first quarter is I just want a little bit of that longevity. I think they're a little bit deeper right now, especially with Lively out. Now they say he might return for game 5, but I don't know about you guys, but that looked like a concussion to me. That looked pretty, at the very least, like concussion symptom. He looked super woozy on the sideline, looked okay in game 4, whatever, just sitting there. But I do not think that he's coming back despite what the Mavs are kind of putting out there. And if he doesn't play, that's a massive loss for Dallas. I mean, he's been instrumental. He's been incredible on that short roll. That's really helped unlock Luka's ability to, Gafford is a great rim presence, but Lively's versatility just adds another layer to their offense. And you can see it in the numbers, on the on-off numbers, these playoffs. Offensive rating with Derek Lively on the court, 122.7, and 105 defensive rating. Off the court, they have a 111.7 offensive rating, 117.6 defensive rating. So, I mean, he's huge for their success. That said, even if he does play, and I'm wrong, I like them in the first half, and that's why I like that first half look better, because I think Dallas has struggled in the first half. They've struggled to get going. Sean, you were really sharp being on Dallas first halves in the previous series, and those were great looks. I think it's a little different this series. Ant has been the more tired one, so they've needed to kind of get things going early. So I think that's flipped a little bit, and I just think that that first half look, I want some of that larger sample size, less variance than a first quarter. But a few reasons I'm staying away from the full game are that basically teams that have laid 4 or more points in conference finals, I went back and looked the last 2 seasons, are just 2-12 against the spread. So they're 7-7 on the money line too, and fading them gives you a 63.4% ROI. Now, we saw Dallas cover a 4.5 point spread. Maybe it ended at 5. We saw that Luka game winner. I just don't really like laying that many points in this really close series that we've seen, especially one that's leaned towards Dallas thus far. I think the game script is basically Wolves have to come out fast, have to come out sharp, and then hold on to that lead at the end. I think they can do it. I think they can hold on, but I'd rather just isolate to that first half, because the Dallas has been excellent in the second half. 11-3-2 against the spread in the second half this postseason, 36-31-2 during the regular season. So I'll take the Wolves -2.5 in the first half.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, ALW, as well. And, I mean, you didn't say this, but this is where I feel like you're going, and correct me if I'm wrong. you trust Luka and Kyrie more down the stretch in the second half, and I'd rather not give up 4.5 points. If that's I think that's the simple way to put it. Jay, any thoughts on the first half? And then I'll start talking full game since it's correlated.
I don't really have any thoughts on a side here. I need to know if Lively's in or out. Like, that would really sway my position there. But it's kind of what you said. Yeah, the thing I don't like about the Wolves is sometimes their offense can really get stagnant. It's dribble, and then let's try to hit a tough shot. And I've seen that literally all season. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was kind of wondering, were they going to be able to get past the Nuggets? Because I saw that in person when he went for 40-some points and he was making every shot. But what happens when he's missing them? That can't be your offense. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like how their offense gets stagnant, but Lively, like I'm not even looking towards the side until I know what's up with Derek Lively.
Yeah, I agree. That's a perfect segue into my cap. I like the Timberwolves minus 4.5 contingent on Derek Lively and his status. Derek Lively doesn't play. I actually really like 4.5. I like that game to be closer to like a double-digit win for Minnesota at home. I think we're going back to Dallas without question. And I think Dallas then closes it out in Game 6 at the crib. If Derek Lively's out on the floor, I have no problem laying the 4.5 points with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, let's talk about, because you brought it up too, AOW. Let's talk about Ant-Man and the rest piece and getting tired. So, I mean, clearly what happened, right? Ant-Man emptied the tank because it was an elimination game, and he did what he had to do. And then that was the first game that he had to cover Luka Doncic. That was the switch that we just been talking about. But if you think about it, Ant-Man completely disappeared in the whole middle of the game on offense. He came out like gangbusters in the first quarter, was doing his thing, was going crazy, got to the line 6 times, was uber aggressive, and then the entire middle portion of the game disappeared. I personally think part of that is flat out he was a bit tired with having to deal with Luka and the energy he exerted in the first quarter. I think then towards the end of the game there, he had a little left in the tank to get going. And they were playing a lot better defense on Luka and Kyrie. They didn't have to produce as much offense. Jay, that's where I got a little spooked on the team total that I gave out in our previous episode. Was I wasn't expecting them to flip the Kyrie and Jaden McDaniels matchup. And I'm like, well, if Dallas doesn't push these boys a little bit, they have no reason to score 105 plus in this game. They can win this game 197. So we were able to get home, but that's why I got a little nervous in that spot, is because if they're not forced to score and they're playing good D, they're going to slow this boy up. But credit to us on the Lively situation, those boys were going to the paint at will. Michael Connolly was going to the paint at will. He was attacking the basket.
They stopped for a little bit, Sean. I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? They went back to selling and that's when the Mavs went on their run. Yeah. It's like, why do you forget how to play basketball? I never understand that, bro. All first quarter, and guess what? That's why they were up 10, 12 points. No shit. Right. You stop doing it in the second quarter, oh, here you go. Now the Mavs come back, 8-0 run, 10-0 run. How many 8-0 or 10-0 runs they have in the game? At least 3. So, and then at one point you lose a lead. That can't happen in a Super Bowl type of spot, like you say, Watts.
Yeah, it can't happen. Can't happen. And so I think that is a big portion of why they got the W. Then they got back to it down the fourth quarter. Shout out our guys, Matt Moore and Brandon Anderson, and a lot of other people talk about it's a miss or make league and shooting variance. Overall, if you're going to slow up and strap up Luka and Kyrie like that, and you're going to get help from Cat, and he's going to be able to knock down shots, they're going to compete in these games and probably win more times than not. That's why coming into the series, they were the favorites. Like, okay, these guys have been playing pretty cohesive offensive basketball overall, led by Ant-Man. That stuff fell off a cliff. Cat was nowhere to be found the first three games of this series and the first half of Game 4. We were on our way, J Money and AOW, to a summer of clowning Cat the entire summer. This guy did not show up in 4 straight games, and he calls himself an impact player, this, that, and the third. He saved a lot of back and forth in that second half.
Sure, I just wanted to say one thing. First off, he talks about being the best big man shooter of all time. First off, but it's not even it. If he doesn't hit those 2 late threes in the fourth quarter, We're talking about another sweep. We're talking about both Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals being a sweep. 2 huge threes. Like, they were down 1, and then he put them up 5. Without those key baskets with Cat, and I do think, like, as a basketball player, once you do get over that hump, I was about to come on here and give out Cat over his points. I'll tell you straight up. I was finna come on here and give out Cat either over his threes, over his points. If he's woken up and has gotten out of his slump, watch out.
I'm going to tell you this, Jay. Yeah. The biggest shot of the entire game was when Cat hit his first three-point attempt in the middle of the third quarter. He hadn't even taken the three till the middle of the third because he had heard all the chirping. Like, if there's a guy, you know how there's a lot of players that come out and say, oh, man, I'm not even tapped into the media. I don't listen to none of that. Well, LeBron, 0, it's dark 30. Like, oh, Twitter, what's that? I don't go on that. Cat is the guy that listens and hears everything, in my opinion. So he was like, let me attack, let me go to the rack, and it was working. If he doesn't knock down that first three that he takes in the third quarter and it goes in, I'm not even sure he attempts those threes in the fourth quarter. That's for his first three to go in the third was massive, and it got him rolling. He ended up finishing the game 4 or 5. I got to give him his credit. He was on his way to getting ridiculed. He had 5 points at half, and he closed it out with a big second half. He had 13 drives to the basket. All these guys were attacking the basket. As I mentioned, Ant-Man had 6 free throws in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game. They were attacking every opportunity they had, and a big piece of that was because Derek Lively was not on the floor. Matt Moore tweeted out Derek Lively's raw plus minus 20. It's 22. It's the best in the series right after Kyrie Irving at 21. So there's a big, big, big factor that Derek Lively is not on the floor. So I got to give those guys their credit. Overall, I'll close it on this and I'll give it to you, ALW. They're going to go back to Minnesota. The crowd is going to give them extra energy, and specifically Anthony Edwards that he may or may not have had on the road the last couple games. That's going to lift those guys up. I think they cover the number and get the win that way. And then when they go back to Dallas, Ant's going to start to run out of gas, and he may be back to the oxygen like he was in game 3 in the fourth quarter in the tunnel, and they're just not going to have enough, and they're going to lose the series. That's how I see this playing out. And I think also, last point, is that Jaden on Kyrie and Ant on Luka might need another game for Dallas to kind of figure out how they want to play it, especially if Derek Lively is off the floor. That's why I'm back in Minnesota for the full game. ALW.
Yeah, I think it, as much as it's clownable for Cat, what he's saying about being that impact player, I mean, I think it's true. Last game, Cat and Ant were better than Luka and Kyrie. So that needs to happen for them to succeed. And I think it can in this game because of those adjustments that we talked about. But he's got to make those shots. He's got to even be more aggressive and stop committing those stupid fouls, man. Like, that is such a massive key to his game. And it's such a black spot on his game. Like, he just cannot avoid it. He can't help himself sometimes. Some of them aren't even in position, it doesn't even make sense. I think, did he foul out? I don't know if he officially fouled out. Yeah. He did, right?
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it was of those 6 fouls, was one of them all right, solid foul. All of them were just what are you doing? So, anyways, that's the key to me, and he needs to kind of keep that under wraps if they're going to be able to do anything. And I think they can. I mean, I think they have tonight in them. I agree with you though, Sean. I think it's going to be tough to find that energy in game 6 if they do pull it off tomorrow night. So
no doubt. Yeah. 29 minutes for Cat in the game. Only 29. They need him on the floor for 10 more minutes at least than what he played. So also they got to reel in the turnovers. Ant-Man had 6 turnovers. They missed a lot of free throws. I mean, if Ant could play a lot cleaner game and Cat contributes, and then you wake up Naz Reid a little bit, I'm telling you, as Jay said, look out. This could get really, really interesting here coming down the stretch. Jay, any more thoughts before we get out of here?
No, we broke it down. Shit, you know what I'm on. So I'm hoping. I mean, hopefully we have it. Hopefully we have it right. I don't like saying, "Oh, we're gonna sweep" or something like that. But if we have if we're all on the same, you know what I'm saying, and we're all right, then like you know what I'm saying, we can end up. I think all of our play. It's either we're going 3-0 or we're going 0-3. So, but I think it's the first one. So let's see.
I do too.
All right, to recap, J Money is money. Prop J is back in the building. Kyrie Irving under 23.5 points. Seeing a lot of Jaden McDaniels. Let's hope he slows him up. AOW, is on the Timberwolves first half -2.5, and I am on the Timberwolves full game -4.5. For AOW, Andrew ConnorWatts. For J Money is money. I'm your host, Sean Little. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app and subscribe to the YouTube page. Until next time, Game 6, maybe? Is it the finals? Get buckets, baby.